Chapter 672, a 4-kill finish. In a battle at the level of Deng Shintong, the participation of ordinary aliens is just a waste of time. And now Jangi has already completed the task very well. No, it should be said that he has completed the task far beyond Zhu Zheng's expectations. Zhu Zheng hopes to retain this good seed. If possible, let him join Blizzard City, and he may become a team leader in the future. Jangi was a little surprised by Zhu Zheng's order. He had originally thought that Zhu Zheng would let him continue to provide support on the battlefield. Jangi would not have refused such a request. After all, with his strength, he could easily clean up the mess and pick up some kills for some bonus points. Even if he encountered an enemy that he couldn't handle, he could still escape without any problems. But since Zhu Zheng had already said so, it was obvious that he had enough confidence in Deng Shintong and the others. Jangi was not a pushy person, so he calmly observed the surroundings and slowly withdrew from the battlefield. Jangi left Jiangning Square with the glorious record of killing 4 Eclipse members. Soon after he walked out, medical soldiers immediately came to greet him. Jangi simply gave them a faint smile and said, "I'm fine." Seeing this, the medical soldiers were greatly surprised and looked at Jangi with respect. During this operation, more than half of the foreigners in the outer city were killed or injured, and almost no one was unharmed. Jangi was the last person to walk out of the battlefield. Although they did not know what had happened in the battlefield, this was enough to make them fear Jangi. Jangi made his way back to the armed helicopter. Seeing that it had been converted into a temporary intensive care unit, the surviving foreigners in the outer city, except for Liang Yu and Peng Li, had basically all suffered relatively serious injuries. Yuan Hao was lying on a stretcher, his weak face pale as if he were about to die. His girlfriend Xiao Lingling was standing by the stretcher with vacant eyes, not saying a word, like a dead person. Zhang Yi saw the terrible wounds on her body and the flesh that didn't look like a living person, and he understood why Xiao Lingling had not been counted when the number of aliens in the outer city was first counted. Mo Zhongning, Li Weihai and the others were not at ease either. The battle had been a heavy blow to them. Not only physically, but also psychologically. They and Eclipse Moon were essentially the same. They were all stragglers not affiliated with any official organization. However, when it came to fighting, the gap in strength was like a chasm. If the Heavenly Squad hadn't entered in time, they would all have died for sure. Therefore, everyone cast strange and envious glances at Zhang Yi, who had returned unharmed. Zhang Yi ignored them and walked straight over to Liang Yu's side and sat down. Chen Xiaoxiao had recovered almost completely after Peng Li's treatment and the medical team's use of medication. Although she could not fight in the short term, her life was not in danger. She looked at Zhang Yi and her eyes already held a hint of awe. She had personally witnessed Zhang Yi single-handedly slaying 2 Eclipse Moons in seconds. "Zhang Yi, have you completed your mission?" Chen Xiaoxiao asked cautiously. Zhang Yi thought about it for a moment. Zhu Zheng's orders to him had been to support the northern front. However, by the time he arrived, Liao Honglei had already been killed. However, he had also killed Shinkai Nado and Akutsu Shinichiro, so overall he had fulfilled his mission. Zhang Yi nodded, sort of. This remark shocked everyone from the outer city who was present. Even the medical staff beside him couldn't help but look sideways. Mo Zhongning looked at Zhang Yi in shock. "You don't tell us that you killed the members of Eclipse Moon." He lowered his head and muttered, "Those guys are strong as monsters." Li Weihai shook his head. "That's impossible. Only the people in the 10 Gods squad can fight them. As for those of us from the outer cities who are different, well, we are nothing more than cannon fodder." Zhang Yi didn't want to respond to the others. But hearing their desperate tone, he couldn't help but sneer. "Are Eclipse Moon's people really that strong?" "I don't think so. Is it possible that you are just too weak?" Upon hearing this, the few people who had already been scared out of their wits by Eclipse Moon became angry. Mo Zhongning said angrily, "Zhang Yi, did you really encounter Eclipse Moon members? Do you know how strong they really are?" Li Weihai also shook his head. "I heard that no Eclipse Moon members have appeared on your side at all." this may have given you an unwarranted illusion. As for what you call completing the task of supporting the Northern Front, I presume it was just going over there to fight a little aid battle and fire a few sniper shots. Jangi sighed and leaned back in the chair inside the helicopter. He spoke in a gentle tone, "It may really be like you said. I was under an illusion, and I happened to encounter 4 weak members of Eclipse Moon, and then took their lives. That's all." These words suddenly changed the atmosphere in the helicopter. Even Yuan Haodu, who was lying weakly on the bed, sat up and looked at Jangi with disbelief. What did you say? You really killed members of Eclipse Moon, and there were 4 of them." Chen Xiaoxiao and Peng Li also stared at Jangi in disbelief. He killed 2 more members of Eclipse? Doesn't that mean that Jangi, by himself, eliminated 1/3 of Eclipse? This kind of record can only be described as terrifying. You must be joking, right? Ha! The smile on Mo Zhongning's face was a little stiff. Although he knew that there was no point in Zhang Yi lying about such things, but the actual experience made him unable to believe that Zhang Yi could take out 4 powerful Eclipse members. Even if he could take out just 1, it would be very incredible. Obviously, everyone was an outsider in the outer city and the leader of a faction, and their strength levels should be similar. Why are you so awesome? Zhang Yi didn't bother to explain. He sat in a chair, his gaze looking through the window towards the center of Jiangning Square. Right now, all he needed to do was wait. Waiting for the outcome of the battle between Deng Shintong and the leader of Eclipse Moon. Everyone at the Operations Command Center was also staring intently in that direction. Deng Shintong was now their last hope. But even though the situation on the battlefield was already very undesirable, Zhu Jing was more at ease than anyone else. Because he believed in the strength of Deng Shintong. Deng Shintong was backed by the armed forces of Blizzard City and decades of technological power of the Deng Group. In the center of Jiangning Square, the 2 captains of the different factions clashed. At the same time, the Eclipse Moon Group, the Combat Center, and the different factions in the outer city all felt the terrifying aura that made the air freeze, erupting from the center of Jiangning Square. Chapter 673, Praise of Light. While the other fronts were still at a stalemate, the battle between Deng Shintong and Feng Huang Yuanren had already begun. Everyone knew that this battle was the decisive factor in determining the outcome of the war. Shiji Wu Changwu quickly led Takeuchi Mayumi away from the battlefield. A battle of this caliber was not something they were qualified to be anywhere near. Next, they could only leave it to Huan Jin to deal with. After the 2 teammates left, Huan Jin stared at Deng Shenwu with a smile, revealing 2 fierce glances from beneath his newsboy cap. As long as I can kill you here, I think the old men in the Jiangnan region will finally wake up. Deng Shintong smiled and waved at him, "You can try." Phoenix Courtyardren put away the smile on his face. From the depths of his eyebrows, a bright red mark quickly emerged, and then spread along the cheeks, slowly forming dazzling bright red spots on his face. It was a colorful red, dark red, bright and shiny, and had the mottled shimmer of the stars. It was as if streams of crimson galaxies were rushing through his skin. The crimson marks gradually spread to his neck, the back of his hands, and finally covered the entire body. A powerful aura that was suffocating to behold emerged all around him. He didn't look tall and strong at all, but at this moment, just a pair of clenched fists gave people the feeling that they could blast open the sky. Team leader of the Erosion Moon, Ren Hoen. Trait-based ability user. Ability code. Phoenix Hall Ren's body was surrounded by a red aura of blood, and the temperature of the surrounding space rapidly increased, causing large areas of ice and snow to begin to melt. He did not rush to attack, but looked at his opponent, Deng Shintong, who was not far away. "Come on, let me see your power." Deng Shintong smiled and nodded lightly. "Okay." The moment his voice fell, his arms spread out to the sides like the wings of an angel. Then, an incredibly holy and magnificent light exploded in all directions from his center. The color suddenly disappeared from the pupils of Ren Hoen's eyes. Even his pitch-black pupils had turned white. It was as if he was in a white expanse of space, where everything had disappeared. Including his own body, he could no longer see it. Deng Shintong, leader of the Heavenly God Squad. A special attribute ability user. His ability code is Praise of Light. His ability was light. It could give people light, but it could also take it away. Under this technique, everyone except him would lose their sight and could no longer see anything but a white expanse. Phoenix Hallren was not far away, but he could no longer see his appearance. Deng Shintong raised the corner of his mouth slightly, took a step forward with his right foot, and the next moment he appeared in front of Phoenix Hallren. Then, a punch aimed at his head slammed past. Although Feng Huangyuan had lost his vision, his fighting instincts were still there, and his keen sense of danger made him aware that Deng Xinfa was approaching. As the fist swept past, he quickly blocked with his arm. However, after all, he was half a beat behind Deng Xinfa. In a masterful exchange, the outcome can be decided in an instant. Being half a beat behind can be fatal. However, even though Feng Huangyuan could no longer see anything, he was able to precisely block Deng Shintong's attacks again and again. This surprised Deng Shintong a little. Feng Huangyuan, who had the power of the phoenix within him, fought Deng Shintong back and forth. The crimson markings flowing through his body greatly enhanced his strength and speed. Interesting. Deng Shintong's smile grew wider at the corner of his mouth. What good is that? A white six-pointed star twinkled in his eyes, and it was the white and platinum star that shone in the sky. A white holy light shrouded his body, making him look even more glorious and majestic, as if a god had come down to earth. This was his ability, the covering his entire body in light also made him an unbeatable presence in close combat. The power of light and the power of the phoenix blasted against each other at close range. Deng Shintong's speed became faster and faster, and his power became more and more terrifying. At first, Phoenix Hallren was still able to react with his fighting instincts and block Deng Xinwu's moves. But gradually, even though he was able to catch Deng Xinwu's attacks, his body could no longer respond. Even if his body did respond, it was completely overpowered. The arena was enveloped in white light, and neither the Combat Command Center nor anyone else from Eclipse Moon could see what had happened here. This was why no one had ever known Deng Xinwu's true abilities. However, Zhu Jing had full confidence in Deng Shintong. Because Deng Shintong was the supreme masterpiece of the Jiangnan region's cooperation with the Deng Group. Whether it was ability, brains, or equipment, Deng Shintong was at the pinnacle of the field. He was an idol created by the Jiangnan region, a god who gave the people of the Jiangnan region confidence. Therefore, since the end of the world until now, any task carried out by the Heavenly God Squad would be completed perfectly. Deng Shintong has never lost a one-on-one situation. No one could see how far the battle had progressed. There was just the constant sound of shocking explosions, and the sound of flesh colliding on the battlefield, like the beating of a huge drum. Puff! Deng Shintong's fist pierced through Feng Huangyuan's defenses, forcefully knocking his arm away and crashing heavily onto his chest. Feng Huangyuan's chest directly sunken in, and a clear fist mark appeared. Deng Shintong's mouth curled up into a smile. He grabbed Feng Huangyuan's shoulders with his left hand, and then with his right hand, he smashed his fist with infinite power into the wound. Feng Huangyuan desperately tried to struggle, but the severe injury to his chest prevented him from exerting any strength. Puff! This time, Deng Shintong's fist pierced directly through Feng Huangyuan's chest and out his back. The bright white battle uniform was still so magnificent, even with the blood staining it, it was as gorgeous as a plum blossom blooming in the snow. However, the smile on Deng Shintong's mouth slowly faded. The leader of the Eclipse Moon Group was actually so vulnerable. He really found it hard to believe. But right in front of him, the touch of his body was incredibly real, and he could clearly feel the beating of Phoenix Hallren's internal organs. But just then, Phoenix Hallren, who had been punched through the chest, slowly raised his head and flashed him a bloody smile. The next moment, the body of Feng Huangyuan burst into flames. He clutched Deng Shintong's arm tightly, preventing him from leaving. The temperature of that red flame was extremely high, and even Deng Shintong couldn't help but frown. he was wearing battle armor created using Blizzard City's top technology. Even the battle armor of the other 5 investigation teams was not comparable. However, even so, the flames generated by Feng Guangdiwen Ren's spontaneous combustion still made him feel a sense of terrible crisis.